Banned books. There are many reasons why a book can be banned, from its subject matter to its content to even the time it was published. But some of the most notorious banned books weren't banned because of their content, but instead because people were scared that the content would corrupt readers and lead them to do horrible things. Sometimes these books go too far, like Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf or Marquis de Sade's 18th century novel Justine, which describes in detail the tortures that a virtuous woman has to endure. These books might be horrific, but they're also disturbingly fascinating, and over the years, more and more people have gotten their hands on them despite being banned. But what about the books that walk the line between compelling and horrifying? What about the books that explore dark subjects in a way that makes them feel all too real? One such book is Exquisite Corpse by cult author Poppy Z. Bright. This book is so messed up it actually includes a warning before starting that reading it could cause nausea, vomiting, and even fainting. And if that doesn't scare you away, then maybe the fact that the book is dedicated to serial killers Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez will. So here, everything you need to know about one of the most messed up love stories ever told. Love story. Exquisite Corpse follows two lovers, a man named Edward and his boyfriend, a man named Adam. The only problem is Edward is engaged to another man named Paul, a seemingly perfect yuppie type who looks like Tom Cruise. Now, you might think this is just a simple love triangle, but things are way more complicated than that. You see, Edward and Paul are vampires who have been together for years, but their relationship has become stale and loveless. When they meet Adam, though, everything changes. Edward falls head over heels for him and even decides to leave Paul for Adam, despite knowing that he's giving up immortality for mortality. Now, while this all sounds pretty normal, things quickly take a turn for the worse. We soon discover that Edward and Paul aren't your typical vampires. See, Edward is an erotic vampire. Instead of draining his victims of blood, he drains them of their life force through sex. He views sex as a form of worship and anything sexual as a religious experience. It's no surprise then that he becomes obsessed with Adam, viewing him almost like a god. And Adam, well, he's not exactly thrilled about being worshipped. In fact, he hates it. But Edward doesn't care. He's already made up his mind and nothing will change it. This isn't exactly a healthy relationship, but Edward and Adam move in together anyway. Paul, meanwhile, isn't taking this lying down, and as the story progresses, he begins to stalk Edward and Adam, showing up at their house unannounced, sneaking into their bed at night, and even injecting himself into Adam's bloodstream. It's clear that Paul isn't going to let this relationship end without a fight, and soon, things will get very ugly, very fast. The darker side of love. At its heart, Exquisite Corpse is a story about obsession. Edward's obsession with Adam quickly becomes all-consuming, and he does whatever he can to keep him around, including giving him blood transfusions that make Adam addicted to him. Adam, meanwhile, is terrified of Edward, but he's also strangely fascinated by him. Despite knowing that Edward is dangerous, he can't help but feel drawn to him. This obsession with danger is actually a pretty common phenomenon in psychology. In fact, there's even a term for it: the high-risk, high-reward relationship. In these relationships, one partner is drawn to the other because of the risk that they pose. They're attracted to the danger and excitement that comes with being in a relationship with someone who could potentially hurt them. And this is exactly what's happening between Edward and Adam. Adam is drawn to Edward because he's dangerous and obsessive. He's attracted to the excitement that comes with being in a relationship with someone like Edward, even though he knows that it could end badly for him. And it does end badly. As the story progresses, Edward's obsession with Adam becomes more and more intense. He begins to isolate him, controlling what he eats, what he wears, and who he sees. He turns Adam's friends and family against him, telling them that Adam is a monster and that they should stay away from him. Eventually, Adam becomes completely dependent on Edward, both physically and emotionally. He's trapped in a relationship with a man who he's terrified of, but he can't escape because he's too afraid of what Edward will do if he tries. Exquisite Corpse is a cautionary tale about the dangers of obsession. It shows what can happen when one person becomes all-consuming in another's life, but it's also a story about the darker side of desire. Adam is drawn to Edward because he's dangerous and forbidden. He's attracted to the taboo nature of their relationship, even though he knows it could end badly for him. But Exquisite Corpse is more than just a story about obsession and desire. It's also a story about identity. Throughout the novel, we see Adam struggle to figure out who he is and where he belongs. He's torn between his feelings for Edward and Paul, and he's also struggling to come to terms with his own sexuality. Ultimately, Exquisite Corpse is a story about love in all its forms, both good and bad. It is a story about the power of desire and the lengths to which we will go to satisfy it. And it's also a story about the importance of identity and the need to belong. Exquisite Corpse was published in 1992 and it was immediately banned. It was seen as too transgressive and disturbing for readers to handle, but in the years since then, it's become a cult classic. Fans of the book argue that it is a work of art and that it shouldn't be banned. They see the book as a daring exploration of taboo subjects, and they believe that it should be celebrated, not censored. So what do you think? Is Exquisite Corpse a daring work of art or a disturbing mess? Let me know in the comments below. But before you go, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this one. And with that said, let's move on to the next thing. Blood, sex, and cannibalism. Exquisite Corpse is a unique blend of eroticism, horror, and dark comedy. The novel is set in a near-future America that's overrun with vampires. The story follows two young men named Edward and Adam who fall in love despite the fact that Edward is engaged to another man. Their relationship is passionate but volatile and eventually turns deadly. As Adam's body begins to decay, Edward becomes obsessed with preserving him and turns to blood transfusions to keep him alive. This is where the eroticism of the novel comes in. The blood transfusions are also a form of sex for Edward, and he becomes addicted to the rush of hormones that they give him. As Adam's condition worsens, Edward becomes more and more desperate. He starts to inject Adam with his own blood, and even begins to drink Adam's urine. The novel then takes a turn for the surreal when Edward's ex-fiancé Paul returns to the picture. Paul is also a vampire and he's furious with Edward for leaving him. He kidnaps Adam and holds him prisoner while Edward searches for him. The novel culminates in a bloody showdown between Edward and Paul, with both men willing to do whatever it takes to get Adam back. There are multiple love stories in Exquisite Corpse. There's the doomed romance between Edward and Adam, the toxic relationship between Edward and Paul, and the unsettling bond between Paul and his twin sister Mary Lee. Exquisite Corpse is a novel that defies easy categorization. It's funny and disgusting, sexy and violent, romantic and repulsive. But beneath all of the shocking imagery and taboo subject matter, Exquisite Corpse is ultimately a story about loss and the lengths to which we will go to keep those we love alive. Author Poppy Zebright is known for her transgressive and often controversial novels. Exquisite Corpse was her first novel, and it established her as a writer who was unafraid to push boundaries. Since then, she has written several other novels as well as short stories and essays. Her work has been banned in several countries, and she has been called the literary equivalent of a jackass. But despite the controversy that surrounds her work, Poppy Zebright is an important voice in contemporary literature. Her writing is a powerful blend of eroticism, horror, and dark comedy that has earned her a cult following. Whether you love her or hate her, there's no denying that Poppy Zebright is a talented writer who is not afraid to tackle taboo subjects. Her work is a breath of fresh air in a literary world that can sometimes feel stale and predictable. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe for more. Have a great day.